So today, I'll quickly whiz over what we're doing today. We're just going to be focusing on this monthly level, the Holdout Extreme monthly level. I was working on it a bit last time. I'm going to start with a bit of work on it, then I'm going to play test it, and then we might come back to, then we'll come back to working on it, etc., etc. So there's quite a few balance issues with the level to deal with, and then I want to sort out the unlock panel. Maybe include a few extra things in there, just for fun. And then I'm also going to talk about a few discussions we've been having internally, and some of the and go over some of the commits that have been made. Give an update on the movement systems, which are still in progress, etc., etc. So I'm just going to start by diving straight in with continuing work on the level, and I've got a short list here of things that we noted down last time. So we'll start with that. Apparently the tunnel of combat's broken. So maybe I'll actually start by taking a look at tunnel of combat and decide whether it's too much of a task to do on stream. Hopefully it won't be. Just going to run a test level. And basically I'm going to run this level and put a tunneler in and try and make it fight. Okay, so no, there isn't one. So I did fix the tunneler's tunneling because that was broken at one point. But now the fighting's broken apparently. Probably because it's based on really old stuff. Probably don't. Actually, they are workers, so it's probably fine. Let's have a look. So, as we can see, tunneler's combat is indeed broken. Let's have a quick nosy at its AI. Okay, so this is the tunneler's AI. It's got a separate AI, which is why it's not working. So if we have a look at what our tunneler here is doing. Okay, so it's here, but it's just stuck here. So basically, right, Robo Boy. Choices after school. Well, it should be up. It should be available after school anyway. Basically, what's happened is attack target. The way that works has changed elsewhere in the game as the creatures became more centralized. There's a few creatures in the game that have their own special AI, such as the tunneler, black ants, and the funnel web spiders. Creatures that really, like the ladybirds, creatures that really operate completely different to other creatures. However, this one's using elements of the main creature stuff, and as such, this hasn't gone down well. So I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and bring in the subtree of of the normal creature stuff, which is the whole section of combat for normal creatures, and see if that works. It might not, but it should be pretty quick to check. So this is the normal creature attack sequence. And this is the tunneler attack sequence. They're not too far off each other, actually. Copying stuff over often breaks these, by the way, so I'm going to have to copy them in. Result change self is equal to attack enemy colony creature status. And result change self is equal to attack enemy creature state. I think that's right. Okay. Then this one is on value change self is not set ability end. Now, I don't think these will have an ability end because they don't really have any abilities. It's not set ability end. Right, so there isn't an ability end as such here. So what I'm gonna try and do, get rid of this. Just run it like that. I'm not really expecting this to work, if I'm totally honest. You're right, Sammy man. Good to have you with us. At the minute, I'm just trying to fix Tunneler's combat because it's broken. Okay, off with that. Yeah, it looks just as broken as ever. Okay, so instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bring in the section of the attack subtree that deals with normal attacking. Although I actually might need to bring in ability end and stuff into this in order to fix it. So make them more like the normal creatures. Basic attack. So this is the whole basic attack thing. Check this is... Okay, so we can bring in some of this. So move along. Move along. We need the space. Okay, I don't care about his selected ability. It's that I believe. So I can actually probably reuse this. Okay, so can I attack target here? What that does... What that does is check whether you're in range to attack the target, and if not... So that's the whole thing about unusual status affecting them. We're going to get rid of that for now. So, target nearby enemy, move to creature. Don't need to check for other abilities. He doesn't have other abilities. Then attack target. Blah blah blah. Okay, let's take a look at that. See what comes of that. Okay. Attack target's not really working. I think because it's using usability and it hasn't actually selected an ability. I think that's the problem. See, in the creature subtree, it's got this function, select ability. So maybe we just need to bring that in. But do tunnelers actually have any abilities? Let's have a look. They do. In fact, he has selected it successfully. Interesting. The plot thickens. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to get rid of most of the creatures in the level. The only one I'm going to keep the only two I'm going to keep are the tunneler, queen, okay, so it's actually getting stuck on selectability. Let me just actually save that and run it again just to make sure. Yeah, that's happening. Looks to me like this is coming out with false. No, true. Huh. Very odd now. Let me just have a quick nosy at the behavior tree, make sure. Okay. Right. Here's the issue here, is that that's a selector. What I actually need is a sequence. So what a selector does is it selects one branch below it. So as soon as one succeeds, so that one's succeeding, it doesn't look at the others. What a sequence does is when one succeeds, it moves on to the next one. So actually that was just a fundamental issue here. Okay, so don't need to look at that anymore. Let's just see what it's doing. Hey, we have liftoff, I think. Okay. Okay, so that looks like to me like we've got the basic attack working. Just check that it's actually doing damage. Yeah, it is. Okay, that's the basics of that in place. What I'll do is I'll keep an eye on it as we test the level, just to make sure there aren't any bugs, because there might well be. Things like it continuing walking when it's stunned, that sort of thing, that we need to have a look. That we might need to have a look at. But for now, it's working. So I'm going to get rid of that stuff towards the bottom of this. Now we've got a working system in place. Okay, so I can cross that one off. Tunnel of combat broken, no more. The next one on my list is wave difficulty ramp too slow. So I need to make it get harder faster. Prevents it being boring. So for this, we're going to go into the level itself. And here, what we're looking at is we either want the waves to come faster, or we want the waves to come harder. Now, I wanted to control the wave speed based on a difficulty. So basically, you can up the level's difficulty just by reducing the time in between waves. That combined with getting a little less food on the map should be enough to make the level difficulty harder for some people. So under those circumstances, I want the waves to come harder. And the way we're going to control that at the moment is we're going to control it via the size of the wave. So wave 1 is 1 Devil's Coach Horse. Wave 2 is 6 Swarm Black Ants. I think that's fine. Wave 3 is 10 Tunneler Black Ants. That's fine. Wave 4 is Swarm. Okay, so there's Wood Ants of 2 different types. I actually did change that. I haven't tested it since, so I won't change that yet. 5 small hermit crabs. I think I've actually been through and changed them. Okay, so I'm not going to do that until I've tested it, and then during testing I'll note which waves I find boring. It will make it harder from that point. Also got wave creatures should provide reduced food, but I think I've built that into the level already as well. I think I've already done that one. Though I can't see where I've done it. I'll look at the waves for you. Right. I think this should have a stat on it there, food spawn scale. Spawn food scale. Right, so I'm just going to look for it here. Maybe I haven't set it. Maybe I just built it in and never actually did it. There is actually only one reference to difficulty settings in this, so I mustn't have set it yet. I think I intended to do this, but maybe I only intended it to change it for the whole level, so not sure yet. Not sure yet. Lots of references to it, but I think it's all the same thing. Okay, so my feeling on this is that in the later game you will always get too much food. You'll always get too much food from what's attacking you, pretty much always. So I probably want to at least set a default value lower. So spawn food scale, for example, I can probably set it at 0.3. So the waves that come in drop a lot less food. I think even on normal mode that's fine. I want most of your food for you to have to actively tunnel it out. Because passive food generation is just a bit boring. Okay. I think that's everything for now. So we guess I'm just gonna nip out for a sec, and then we will run a quick test on this. Back in 1 second. Right. Okay, so we're gonna run this. We're gonna test the level, and we're gonna see how far we can get with it. I have my pen and paper ready because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have things I need to change. So here we go. Okay, so I apparently have some unlock points. Okay, so as I'm going to be updating the UI as part of today, I'm going to take a look at. I'm gonna note down a few things that need to change with the UI. So display costs on the UI. I also think I'm going to present this differently. So I'll probably have a section for one species that'll have different unlocks next to it, and a section for another, section for another, and I'll probably use up more screen real estate. Hello, Pacatane. Nice to have you back with us. But we'll deal with that in a minute. In a minute, I'm not going to unlock anything. Okay, so you may have I don't actually know what difficulty I've got this set to, so before I actually test it, I'm going to set a difficulty override so I know what difficulty I'm running. Oh, it's already on, and it's on normal. That's fine. Testing on normal's fine. Alright, pick of death. Good old Tenacious D. Okay. Whilst I'm doing this as well, I'm going to also note down any movement issues, because we're close with the movement now. Liam's getting on with the overground movement. Now the movement has definitely taken longer than we wanted it to take. Unfortunately, it's not something we can rush. Okay, so there should be easy caverns nearby. Well, that is how we had it set up. And then there's also really difficult caverns further out now. Should have more food in them. Harder creatures. Okay, so this is a tricky one, but food's bunching up in the middle of the tiles. Unfortunately, I can't push it too far out. It's a funny one, really. I mean, I could, but maybe it doesn't need to be fixed. See, in order to fix it, I'd have to do a check to see if the neighbour was dug out, and then allow you to put it right up to the edge if it's not, or if it is dug out. This is starting to feel like I've got too much time before the first wave, particularly as the first wave is a single enemy. So, reduce time before first wave. What a terrifying first wave it is. How much food's that giving? What's my food number? 12. Yeah, so the reduced food on the wave spawns is working. They only give like 2 food. Okay, this is already feeling like it's taking too long between waves. Because by the time wave 3 hits, I'm going to have a huge army. Right, okay. Coming out of that, let's implement those 2 things. So that's just changing the number on the UI timer. It's caverns. Right, there's a variable there called time between waves. It looks to me like that is currently just a flat variable and doesn't change. I think certainly in the later game we definitely need to reduce the time between waves. Wave scale multiplier. Right, my guess is then this is to do with harder difficulties, or at least it was meant to be. Scale up the amount of creatures that spawn. So I'll come back to that. Okay, so also I could do with figuring out where the initial setup time comes from. Because that seems even longer than the time between waves. press start. What time does it start on? 2:40. It might be in the wave spawner actually. Might even be a setting on it. Wave spawn timers. It's possibly something to do with that. Actually, I think it probably is. Hang on. It's probably this. Yeah, okay, so here we are. So the initial setup time is using time between waves plus 60 seconds. I'm going to change that to plus 30 seconds, and I'm going to reduce the time between waves to 60 seconds. Right, really quite a dramatic change there, but we'll see how it feels. Sorry, I'm just saving at the minute. Okay, so there's only 90 seconds now until the first attack comes in. Now, the first attack is just a single Devil's Coach Horse larvae, so it's not like the first attack's going to ruin the player no matter what they've built. You could probably take it on with the starting workers. It's actually been fairly generous and given us a couple of places to tunnel out that don't have enemies this time. Okay, the first wave's coming in. Okay, that felt a lot more pressured, should we say? It felt like and now the timer's ticking quite rapidly on the next one. It's feeling better. And the next wave's coming in a second, so yeah, that's feeling good. I feel like I'm actively having to do stuff in order to stay on top of it, so that's good. what I'll probably do then is introduce longer waiting times into easier modes, so you don't feel so pressured. To me, this is feeling good. This is the right amount of pressure. If it's a horde mode, you should feel pressured. Oh, rubbish. Okay. The tunnelers. I've moved too much of the stuff into the tunnelers' routes. Yeah, I need to sort that one out. Because that is not dealable. Okay. So I'll do that now. I wish there was some way of me showing the tunneler routes on the maps. But essentially there's there and there, so I need to move points outside of that area. I don't mind the tunnelers going into near the very nearby tunnels, but the medium and the insane ones should not be tunneled out. So we're gonna have to push these right away from each other. Yeah, the green rove beetle can be a bit tough. It wasn't actually part of the wave, Pacatane. It was the tunneler tunneled it out. So I'm currently moving the points away from the tunnelers' paths. Now, I believe there's a tunneler path here as well. That can stay. Anything that's right next to there can stay because they're the easy ones. So even if the tunnelers do tunnel right through them, the worst you're going to get is 2 double coach horse larvae. But these further out ones really do need to be kept away from the tunnelers' paths. I think that one's actually smack bang in the middle of a tunneler's path. There's a potential better way of dealing with this. And that's actually to flag the tunnelers' paths on the tiles themselves. So basically, a tile gets flagged as a tunneler's path. Maybe it gets flagged as a tunneler's path with a path ID. And if it spots that tile has a path ID associated with it, I think that's the best way forward. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to add a variable to the UG tiles. Not just a variable, I need to add about 3 because it needs to know the start of the path and the end of the path. Oh boy. Okay, that's a big change because that changes fundamentally how the tunnelers' paths work. Maybe they get populated by code. So it asks the tile grid for tunnel path 1, tunnel path 2. But that's definitely the most sensible way to do this, because then I can be sure that the rooms will never be built on tunneler paths. And I can go right to the edge of tunneler paths, so I don't have to do what I'm doing now, which is bunch all the rooms together in certain clumps. I think that has to be the plan of action. You alright, Danny Young? Good to have you with us. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to save the level, and we're going to take a nosy at the code. One second. Just trying to bring you in. What's happening with today's stream? We're still working on. We've gone back to working on Holdout Extreme, and we're exploring the issues that are coming up at the minute. At the moment, I've got an issue with tunnel paths. So basically, the enemy, because if we've got randomized underground caverns, that's not working very well with tunneler paths because they're being placed on top of tunneler paths, and tunnelers are tunneling in and tunneling out loads of enemies that the player shouldn't be encountering until late in the level. Okay, so looking at UG tile grids. Now, Liam has put in place the ability to highlight tiles, and he did it for his, for the enemy underground building plan sort of thing that they do. Now, I'm going to try and piggyback off that system. But additionally, I don't necessarily have to, because I don't need to see the paths if this all works out. That's all the model setups and that. I think this is Liam's jump point search algorithm. Here comes the science bit. Concentrate. That's an old advert. Trying to remember where Liam had this set up. Might not even be in the tile grid. So the question is, how do I want to approach this? I can either store the paths in the tile grid, so I could have them as a... Well, I could have them as they are now, as a list of numbers in the tile grid. But I could put them in the tile grid, and which would allow... allow each tile to be queried. So it asks, is this tile a part of a path, and it would go through the array of paths, array of tunneler paths, and then go through each individual path in there, and then it could return whether it was part of a path or not. Might be the simplest way of doing it. And then I can keep paths as a sequence from top to bottom. So in that case, there's two things I want to add to the tile grid, not to the tiles themselves. The tiles themselves don't actually need to know. Tile grid needs an array of arrays. And each of those arrays is going to be a separate path. Okay. An array of arrays of numbers. That's what it needs. Okay. One sec. Let me just check this out. Someone else has it checked out, but that should be fine. It's only code we can merge. I don't think our code will clash. Okay, so essentially I've created, that's going to be the paths. This is going to be the check to see if it's in a path. So basically you've sent a tile ID in. I'm going to go for just a for loop. This style thing. In fact, very much this style thing. Sorry. Basically making sure I got my syntax right here. Tunnel a path. It's not happy with me there. Try and build it and see what it says. Anyway, let's look up. I remember this. Okay, so it's looking at the tile now. Why is it looking it up? Doesn't need to do that. Doesn't actually need to look at the tile. Just needs to be an if tile ID is equal to viewed tile ID, return true. So it's here, it's cycling through all the tunneler paths. Hang on, I'm just going to shut down the engine 1 second. Here it's cycling through all the tunneler paths. And then all the tiles in the tunneling path, checking whether it matches with the sent in ID, and if it does, it returns true. Else we're going to return false, and that should be that function done. But that should be all the C++ stuff we need to do. So let's try and build it. I'm not convinced it's going to build, particularly when it's so convinced there's an error here, and I'm not quite sure what it means. Right. Looks like I might need to wrap the array in a structure. I think that's what this is. I think room is a structure that has an array in. So basically I have an array. Yeah, I don't think T array can just be a T array of T arrays. I think in order to do a multi-dimensional array, I think I need to wrap it in a structure. Okay. So let me just define a struct and use util grid. So to find it similar to this, but it's going to be dead simple. So it's going to be struct paths, tunneler path, tunneler path. It's going to have one variable T array it's path tile IDs. That should be fine. So next, where I did my tunneler paths, I believe was at the bottom of the, yeah, it was here. Rather than this, we just literally have a T array of tunneler paths, then in here we cycle through tunneler paths, we can't just cycle through tunneler path, we have to then cycle through a member of tunneler path. I believe is referenced like that. dumping me. All right, I'm going to try and not worry about that too much because this is showing up with tons of errors and it's clearly wrong. So let's just make sure I get my syntax right. What did I call it? Path tile IDs. Path tile IDs. Okay, so let's try building that and see where we get to. I might rename that even if this build succeeds. Okay, so what's the issue? Error struct tunneler path has an invalid Unreal prefix. Is it? Ah, stupid. Okay. I'm gonna add the word tunneler into here. Because I don't want to get it confused with Liam's stuff, which is actually doing stuff about paths. That's F. Tunneler path now. Or is it U? It's F tunneler path. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, it looks like it's actually building this time, which is a positive. I'm going to get myself a coffee whilst it's building because there's nothing going on in the meantime. A lot of this stuff here, the jump point stuff, is the new movement code that Liam's putting in because it uses the tile grid to path rather than just whatever floor is available. It's how a lot of the efficiency saving is going to work. Okay, back a minute. Right, well, that hasn't got anywhere yet. Always happens the first time you do a build in a day. You get a huge weight. Whilst it does it. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at the recent commits coming in and have a chat about some of them. All sorts of strange ones coming in. Okay. So I'll go from here. A couple of weeks ago. Okay, so Liam's making changes to the movement code. There's lots of his commits are just along those lines. Changes coming into the movement code. Matt's actually started doing some fixes here. Just little fixes. I've obviously got the achievements in. All the achievement codes in place now for those to work. Got the achievement stuff working at the end of levels, so it shows the achievements that you're working towards on those levels. However, there's still an issue with that in that the placement of the achievements isn't right. I need to look into that one. It's just a UI issue at the end of the level. Liam's fixing some of the other functions that were reliant on the old movement code. So getting random points, such as when ants choose to path, like wander randomly. Okay, build succeeded. There we go. So now that's succeeded, I'll boot the engine again. And then bring you back into it. Hopefully that won't take too long. Alright, I'm going to continue scouting through some of these. Right, Matt's talking about here adjusting tunnel sockets. So the way the tunnel exits work now on the surface is that it locks itself into the tiles. It's actually quite clever. I'll show you that soon actually. Once the engine's booted up, I'll show you how the new placement of tunnel exits is going to work. It's quite clever. And it's a lot more automated than it used to be. Fixed an error on trapdoor upgrade. I updated a monthly level, Matt. Movement code checkpoint. Tunnel exits, sockets. So that's the thing I'm talking about with it like locking itself into place as you move it around. Fixed an issue where funnel webs that start exposed but not register. That was an issue I was working on last week, I think. Levels without an underground. Pressing tab now jumps to your queen. Updated the overground system to include blocking neighbor flags. I don't really understand that one. That's one of Matt's commits. Added an easier starting food on the new holdout map. Yeah, that's what you can see when I was running the map. Some updates to aggrandize, and a fix for the harvesting resource invalid. We'll have to keep an eye out for that coming back up again. Some more monthly level work. Updated tunnel exit nodes. Again, that's to do with the new locking in place tunnel exits. Can use a generic ending animation. Oh yeah, I added in the ability to. I actually lost a bunch of time to trying to do something that didn't work. Added in the ability to make reusable ending animations for levels. I was trying to have it completely automated, so I could just say play this animation in this level, and it did it. Unfortunately, the way the sequence system's set up in Unreal, that was crashing it, and it actually wasn't letting me boot the engine up after it crashed there. I had to run tests to figure out what exactly was crashing it and causing it not to boot. Between my laptop and my computer, like testing on my laptop, saving on my computer, and pushing it without closing the engine, because the engine wouldn't boot again if you got it wrong. Eventually, I figured out that the sequences have to have stuff already in the level. You can't fully automate it, unfortunately. Okay, well the engine's booted now, so I'll bring you back into that. Cool. Okay, so moving on. I'll just show you briefly. I'll show you on the Brood Sisters map. I'll show you briefly the locking into place thing of the tile grids. Quite interesting. Liam's done a good job with it. Okay, so it looks a bit mental at the minute, but I'll show you why. So if I move this around, there we are. See, snaps into place. So it snaps into one of its potential into a potential location. I think it does it with the rotation as well. So rotate it. Yes. So there's only certain configurations it can go in now, because it locks the tiles into place. And notice that one messed up a bit there. Still a bit glitchy. But it's pretty cool. I do say so myself. So anyway, that's just showing you what one area that Liam and Matt have been working on. There's errors with that as well. There's still more stuff that needs sorting with it, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, getting back to what we were working on. I'm looking forward to testing the Brood Sisters level, which isn't going to be called Brood Sisters. I think I'm going to call it Babysitting in the end. Which isn't nowhere near as cool as Brood Sisters, but it's more apt for what you're actually doing in the level. Okay, so now UD tile grids. Here it is. This should now have a I can't remember what title I put under it. I think it's something like Tunneler or something. So it might have its own section. Tunneler, there we are. Okay. So here I have an array. Of tunnel paths. So I'm going to populate that array in the level blueprint, because we've got it already set up in here. Get tunneler routes. Okay. So I might rename this function to populate tunneler routes. Well, I'll make a new function called populate tunneler routes. there's the tile grid. Add. Make. Okay, I seem to have forgotten to make the members of this accessible. Let me just double check that quick. F tunneler path. Yeah, I've set it to blueprint read only. Oops. Okay. Unfortunately, that is an H file change, so we are going to need to recompile in order to get access to that. Sorry. Do apologise. Give me one moment. Okay, whilst we're doing this again, I will continue taking a look at some of the commits. Go through them. Right, so monthly level defeats and victories. So with the generic thing added in, I actually started adding in the defeats and victories into the levels. I still want to do a bit more work on that because I want them to have a bank of about 3 or 4 that it can randomly choose, but they're all going to basically be a slow pan around the queen, like one of our most generic ones. But I don't see the point of making it any more complicated than that. It's not a campaign level. And these monthly levels are meant to be fairly quick to put together. Okay, so other than that, I've also got Matt's added in some guards for certain things. Liam's started working on he's continued working on the overground movement system. Movement systems have been very complicated to get to this point. I think Liam's really quite close now. Something else cool that Matt's been working on. He hasn't written them explicitly into the text, but he was going into his office. So there's a commit here saying office move checkpoint, and he's actually been working on Titans. So the concept of a Titan is actually something we had back in the original Kickstarter. It hasn't made it into the game yet, but we're going to be bringing it in with the Fire Ant update. But it looks like he's also updating the Whip Spider to be one of these Titan things. Or at least he's using that as his test bed as he does it. And the difference between a Titan and a normal creature is that your ants can climb onto a Titan. So it's a large creature in the game that your ants can climb onto and attach to and attack whilst on its back. It should be really cool once we have it running, and it will definitely feature it heavily in the Fire Ant trailer when that does roll around. Titan isn't in the game yet. The So the Titan's not in the game yet. In free play, we're adding the larger whip spider in as a landmark, yes. However, Titan's really being put in for the fire ant update, so the fire ants can take down large creatures and swarm them and climb all over them. Titan is more of a game term for us. In that it's a type, it's going to be a new type of creature that can be climbed on, like similar to what leaf cutters can do with plants. They can climb on them. Titans are creatures you can climb on and attack whilst on their back, and that's a work in progress at the moment. So you said in the June newsletter that the next dance would be the fire ants. And how close are you to the real deal? You mean how close are we to getting the fire ant update out? That's still quite a way off. The next major update that we bring out, which is much closer, is going to be an update to free play, which will start introducing these monthly levels in. I can't tell you exactly how far off we are with the fire ant update. This movement code overhaul is really eating into our time. Should be the better for it by the end, but that's just the way it goes. I haven't got a time scale on the fire ant stuff yet. Okay, so now we are back in the engine, or we will be as soon as I press this button. How close are the game's fire ants to the real fire ants? It's hard. As always, we'll have a lot of real stuff, but also a lot of game related stuff will be in there as well. Because we've always got to draw this fine balance between realism and gameplay. So, as always, we'll be giving the player facts about the ants, but at the same time, certain aspects of it will be controlled, like the number of them, for example. Yeah, that's a good response, Mike. We continue, essentially we'll continue the level of realism that we've got with the other species. We're not always going to be totally real because we do have to make a compelling game experience, and the levels last an hour when really ant colonies will be months and months and months, years. Right. Okay, so with that in mind, we are going to try and see if I can actually I don't think I can populate from here just because the way that it deals with that, but I should be fine populating from the level blueprint. There we go. That's what I was hoping to see. Okay, so that populates it. Next, as we do the check for a tile being indestructible or dug out, we've got to also do a check for exactly the same thing to do with tunneler path. So all underground caverns should be at least one tile from any of this. Oh, and also I want to do this as well. So where's get tunneler route? Actually, I'm gonna. Okay, so here we have a slight issue in that it's an array now, so 0 will be a value. However, I don't want to mess with my levels code, so we'll just we'll minus 1 from the value there. I'm just going to make sure it sits within those values. Okay, that should do then. Might leave these around for a little bit, but I shouldn't need them in the end. Okay, so next we need to actually make the caverns avoid these areas, and we also need to make sure these areas are populated before the caverns get populated. So there's setup cavern. So before we run that, we run populate tunneler paths, then setup cavern. And in setup cavern, we're looking for tiles. At the same place we're looking for tiles that are indestructible is dugout, is cavern. What did I call it? I called it is tile a tunneler path? Okay, so this will probably slow down the if it is dug out, if it is a cavern, or if it is a tunneler path. Yeah, Okay, so this is going to slow down the whole thing because it's now doing a couple of hundred checks for each tile it's using. However, it's still only at the start of the level it's happening, so it happens once and then we're done. It's part of the level generation, if you will. These sort of checks are often the reason why in games that have random elements, why there's the whole setup thing going on, because you've got arrays that are checking arrays of arrays, and it's just kind of a deep cyclic check. Make sure everything's all right. Okay. So, if I play that, it's probably going to crash. Okay, that was very difficult to see what was going on. Fortunately, I've moved most of my stuff away. Yeah, I think we failed a bit here. Kind of hard to tell. Because I moved a load of these points out the way before we decided we were going to approach this differently. They can all be pushed a bit further back now. The first I ran that, then it kind of looked like it decided not to build a lot of the tunnels. Okay, so that looks kind of promising. See what we got here? Is it giving the tunneler path a clear one tile radius around it? I think that's also the situation we got going on down here. I think it's worked. However, it's causing issues with the tight inner area. And I think with the tight inner area, I don't mind if the tunnelers go through it because they're the weak tiles. So basically, I'm going to add an extra check in to check whether it's the inner tiles. If it's the inner tiles, it's not going to do that check. So basically, if it's the inner tiles, I want this to automatically return false. So I'm going to do that via an OR statement. Hang on, that'll be an AND statement. So if it is a path, true. But it's an inner tile, true. So true, true. I want that to be false. So on true, true, I want it to be false. On true, false, I want it to be true. And the order matters as well. It's not just any true or false. It's false, true. Easy cavern. So easy cavern is 1. So in the case of that being true, that should be false there. In fact, if I do it this way, it also so if cavern difficulty is equal to 1, hang on, I'm going to move up here so I've got some more space to see what's going on. Okay, so if cavern difficulty is equal to 1, then if that's true, we set chosen check tunneler to false. We don't even need to do that. If it's equal to 1, that's going to be false. So the OR getting confused with logic. So if it's an easy cavern, then yeah, we do need to set that. Chosen tech tunneler gets set to false. It doesn't need to check tunneler because it's a cavern. Else, if it's not an easy cavern, then chosen tech tunneler is going to be set to whatever the tunnel path is. I hope I haven't got my logic confused. There's a very real chance here I've got my logic just mucked up in my brain. But we shall see. Okay, here we go. What we should notice now is the inner caverns are more likely. And they are. Okay, so I think that's worked because that's accepted that one, it's accepted that one. But the tunneler route here is still clearly not built on. The tunneler route here is still clearly free, apart from the inner cavern here. Same with here. Okay. I think we're good there then. Whew, that was a lot more effort than I intended to do with that bullet point. But we should be better for it. Basically here, there's clearly a tunnel route here. It's going to plough right through this because it doesn't matter whether it ploughs through the inner ones. It really matters if it ploughs through the outer ones. Doesn't matter at all if it plows through the inner ones. Right, so on that note, we're going to run a test. We're going to test the level again. Finally. Get my pen and paper ready. Okay, so I've got this reduce time. Okay, so there's nothing on my paper that I need to do now. This is, we're good to go. We are good to go. I'll tell you when we know. We don't know yet. We're unfortunately still got issues with the movement code, and the movement code is it's close. The movement code's close, but even when we finish the movement code, there's still going to be other things that need setting up, and then we'll need to go into testing mode with it. So I'd say don't yet hold your breath. I'll tell you when to start getting hyped for it. I mean, the movement code's not too bad underground now. Barring bugs, it's pretty much functional underground. There are bugs. I know there's bugs. So wave 3 is where the tunnel is spawned. So this will be our proper test of the tunneler systems. They should spawn from here and then attack me this route, I think. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so yeah, there we go. The tunnelers have not unearthed anything. So that's good. So they are allowed to unearth these. But they're not allowed to unearth anything else. Oh, like you did there. They've unearthed it. Oh, the tunnelers are quite meaty. And the next wave's coming. Okay. We may have gone too far the other way here. Like I said, that was actually quite a big change. Was the timer changed so much, so it's probably time we extended that a little, because now it's feeling too hard. Particularly as the tunnelers were so difficult to actually kill. I'm surprised at that. I think I am going to survive it. But I don't think surviving it's going to be enough. What have we got? Oh my gosh. That's a big attack. Five hermit crabs. Really do with some more food right now. Thankfully hermit crabs are slow. Although I'm not actually convinced that's going to be enough to save us here. Maybe the bottleneck will do it. Quick, bottleneck them. Quick. Yeah, see the waves are now stacking. I haven't dealt with this one, and the next one's coming already. I know I'm not playing the best at the minute. My yeah, the way the level's set up to work is you unlock more stuff the more you play it. So you replay it and you get the ability to you get points which you can spend unlocking other species. And the UI needs a bit of work on that front. But if I play the game to its conclusion, to my inevitable demise here, okay, that wave's not so bad. Okay, so I think the mole cricket wave needs to be worse. Plus needs to be harder. Increase time between waves. Also, I think I can randomize the positions that the waves spawn a bit. So basically, once the tunnelers have tunneled out an area, or potentially could have tunneled out an area, you should be allowed to spawn. Okay, so now theoretically, when I run it again, I should have more points. God, I got a lot of points there. Okay, you're getting too many points. Decreased points. So, like, for example, there I've unlocked the stun mages. Now they're available to build. Yeah. So basically, it looks like I've increased the difficulty of the early levels, but I haven't taken it further than the hermit crabs. So I'm gonna need to go over those. The mole crickets are actually a very basic enemy. They're not that hard at all. Okay, so I have a few more balanced things to adjust here. I think I'm going to end the stream at past, people. So another 20 minutes on the stream. But I think today we've made decent progress in this level. I'll be streaming again tomorrow, a bit earlier, I think. So yeah, we have that. And I will continue this level tomorrow. It's a good level to do on stream actually because it's quite clear what I'm doing. It's not too overly programming heavy. Okay, so here we have spawn location 0. After that, spawn location 1. So I think the wave immediately after the tunnelers should definitely spawn from spawn location 1, but I think then the waves after that should be able to spawn in either the start area or the... So basically it's random where they spawn. Okay, so time between waves. I'm gonna up it again. So that was, we started at 120. We reduced it to 60. 60 is too quick. I think the setup time's fine. So I'm going to go with 80. Let's try 80 seconds between waves. There's some other things I can do to balance it as well, depending on how the game's feeling. If in the later game things get too easy, I can reduce the time between waves as things go on. I also think I'm going to bring these sort of things into the difficulty settings in the level. Okay, so time between waves increased. So from the mole cricket, so there's the hermit crab. I actually think I'm going to switch these waves around. So hermit crabs are going to come after mole crickets, because I think hermit crabs are more dangerous. So it makes sense to me to have them the other way around. Mole crickets, I think at this point, let's try 5 mole crickets and then followed by 5 hermit crabs. I think that should be a reasonable difficulty increase between the two. And then you got Devil's Coach Horse adult. I think I'm going to spawn 2. What's next? Spiny Devil medium. Let's keep the Harvestman mole cricket crab. Do I have the Harvestman in here? I'm not sure if I've even bothered spawning them. Beach wolf spider, praying mantis young, jumping spider, Harvestman small. What are they doing down there? So yeah, I've clearly need some thought in the order here. Difficulty rise with colony size. So you could do that, but I actually wanted this level to feel like you're actually progressing as you're getting better at it. So I'd rather each playthrough was the same. So as you're unlocking things, the earlier levels get easier, and you manage to get to the harder stuff. But yeah, we need to. These waves are going to require a bit more thought. So let's bring. Right, so that's Harvestman Large. Harvestman Small. Okay, so Harvestman Small is going to be easier than the mole crickets. So let's put these in as the mole cricket, where we spawn the mole crickets, and then shuffle stuff down. So what have we got? Swarm wood ants. There's the mole cricket. Well, I'll do mole cricket, then Harvestman Large, I guess. Then hermit crabs. We're going to have to play with the numbers here. So what's that? That's the mole crickets. Harvestman Large. So probably want those there. Okay, so where's Harvestman Large? I think it was wave. There it is. The only way really we're going to properly balance this is by playtesting it, because there's too many variables really going on to try and theoretically balance it. It'd certainly be a lot quicker to playtest balance it. We haven't got long left to the stream, so I'm going to try and balance up to wave 10, and we'll see if we can get there. So that's Devil's Coach Horse adult, and then got Praying Mantis young here. And remember, it's not necessarily the order of which creature is more difficult, because we've got the quantity to take into account as well. Like, for example, army ants are going to be quite far down, because as much as they're nowhere near as, like, a single army ant is nowhere near as bad as like a beach wolf spider. A lot of army ants is a lot worse than a kind of medium amount of beach wolf spiders. So do have to take it all into account. Okay, so Devil's Coach Horse adult large, then Spiny Devil medium. Okay, that is going to be our balance point for today. So going through them, let's see if we can get the numbers right. Let's see if we can guess a feel for it. Okay, so after the wood ants, we've got Harvestman Small. I think 5 would be alright. I'll leave it at 5. The issue with these is going to be killing them in the time before the next wave stacks behind it. And it's whether the next wave does stack behind it as well, because you're going to have the two fronts to deal with by this point. So they might come from separate areas. I've yet to decide whether I am going to leave it the spawn points randomised. At the minute they are. However, it might actually make sense to spawn them from specific areas, so to allow to allow players to work out where they're going. Maybe you can random creature by points. Like I say, I actually want to make this level learnable, so you can actually plan a strategy. So like, you need to know, okay, so by wave 10 I need to make sure I've got wood ants ready, because then lots of army ants come in at that wave and that sort of thing. I'd rather people can strategize in it. What I might do is off the end at the bottom, so maybe wave 30, let's say I structure 30 waves. After 30 waves, maybe it gives you the victory dialogue, pauses the timer and whatnot. And then if you hit continue play, it continues on and then just throws random stuff at you using a point system. But I want there to be a victory point, and I want players to be able to predict what's coming so they can build their army accordingly. I don't always do that. Sometimes I like having randomized things, but recently it's a philosophical process really. Having something randomized and having something curated by a designer, they produce very different feeling products. And randomized, the problem is you can't prepare for it. You can't like learn the encounters and reproduce it. So there's a fine balance between this kind of randomized and this curated kind of game design stuff. The various game difficulties, I intend to throw in a few things into the mix. I'm not sure how totally I'm going to approach it. I might add in a multiplier as well, so on harder difficulties you get higher quantities of enemies in the waves. There's so many things we can do. We've just got to be careful and make sure it aligns with the objectives that I've set out for the level. And don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be the final wave mode I make. There'll be, I'm sure, a few monthly levels down the line, we'll be looking at doing another wave mode, maybe including a surface. Wave modes are there's just too many possibilities with them. I'll probably be coming back and forth to them with these monthly levels. Should be calling them extra levels, sorry, because there's a reasonable chance as we get close to a full release, I won't be able to produce monthly levels. So, extra levels. I need to start using that terminology. Okay, so where were we? Quickly whizzing through. Okay, Harvestman Small, 5 seems fine. Mole Crickets, 5 seems fine as well. Harvestman Large, I'm going to go with 5 again. Hermit Crab Small, let's go with 6. Wave 9, so what's this? Devil's Coach Horse. I think I'll try 3, we'll see where that gets us. And then Spiny Devil Medium. Okay, so this needs to be quite a lot. 8. Okay, so there we go. There we're raising to level 10. Let's give it a go, see what happens. And then we'll come back to balancing this tomorrow. Make it that every 50 rounds you spawn an Uber. 50 is a lot of rounds, you know. If each wave is a minute apart, 50 rounds is... and it's longer than a minute apart. 50 rounds is going to be pretty close to an hour. How long do you expect to play this for? Like one round of it? One go at it? Alright, let's seriously give this a go. So the setup time has increased because of increasing the time between waves. They're currently interlinked. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it that way, but that's just how it is at the moment. Like I say, with these extra levels, a lot of the game design stuff is in flux whilst I'm doing it. So I've got a rough plan, but it's not rigid. With a bit of extra time at the start, I can actually spend a bit more time on the setup. I've got leaf cutters unlocked now. That's interesting. Wonder why that highlighted. No path. Huh. Something's trying to path there and is failing. It looks like it managed it now. Let's keep an eye out for stuff like that happening. Okay, I need more food now. So let's tunnel to some food. Unfortunately, I've spent everything without actually having anything spawn, so I'm gonna have to fight it with workers. Wave 1's coming in now. I'm gonna have to fight that with workers as well. It's alright, we got there. Oh, some pathing issues going on. How odd. I'm all right with adding Ubers into the pool for continued play. See, quite a lot of people like endless modes, but not everyone does. So that's why I want a finish point for the level for people who just want to play it, you know, and complete it. But at the same time, you can continue if you want. And then at that point, I'm happy with things to become randomized. And then we can start throwing Ubers into the mix. I don't think there'll be any Ubers before that. So Ubers are a bit mental. Interesting. I wonder what that whole no path thing is. Just have a quick look. Black Ant 9. This one. Let's find it. Where are you? How odd now? I'm going to speak to Liam about that one, I think. It's just this ant that's got the problem. It's very strange. But the only movement it's doing is its emergency nudge. Odd. Oh, the tunnelers are coming in. I need to... Oh, that ant's distracted me now. I think they arrive here, so I'll get my army ready. Oh no. Oh. Okay, so hang on. I'm going to jot down a couple of these errors. So, broken ant failing to path and emergency nudging. Additionally, tunnelers attempt access array. Okay, a couple of those things to deal with. Okay, so I've dealt with the tunnelers a lot easier this time. And the extra time has really helped. Extremis. Is that sounds Latin. Furthest point. Oh, no time to gather that food. Good, not a bad name. I hadn't come up with a name yet. I guess it holds for the temporary name I've been using. Right, quick gather. Right, so the next wave should randomly appear either at the top here or down there. Any second now. Okay, so it's appeared from the top. What is it? Oh yeah. The small harvestman. The issue with this wave is going to be trying to kill it fast enough. It's not particularly dangerous, but trying to deal with a bunch of harvestmen that quickly. Okay, some pathing issues going on here. Yeah, there'll be issues with the new pathing system. Okay. So the next wave will be coming in now. So that's some major pathing issues here. I'll send this clip to Liam. Thankfully, all this is being recorded. Because that is not a sensible path. I'm assuming Liam will know what the issue is. And it'll be something to do with having all this area opened out like this. Like it's done a search starting over to the right and has made a connection here. I'll see what Liam says. Anyway, that's going to end this test. I think the pathing issues, as much as they probably didn't kill me entirely, they definitely hurt me there. So yeah, we're getting on with this level. We're getting there with it. I think this level now is just a matter of balance. There's not any major things left to do in it. So thanks for joining me. Like I say, I'll stream again tomorrow. I'll aim to start about 11 in the morning UK time. So hopefully I'll see you there. Probably not as long as today's stream. But there we go. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow.